Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rysdam, and I am joined this week, surprisingly, by Don Pizzette. Took the week off there, but you were replaced very well by Ronnie Wong, Don.
You know, Ronnie does a great job. I do worry about my job. One day I'll come in here. It'll be Technado with Ronnie Wong.
You know, if we ever get professional, you're in real danger.
If we get that accountability,
Oh, man.
we were done for.
Bye,
So-
Don. It was
so
nice
are all
knowing
of
your
us.
podcast.
But for the record, I didn't take the week off. I was creating training for our friends on the other side of the pond.
All right, now here's the test, though. We said things at the end, and we said, well, Don will mention this if he listened to the episode.
Oh, I haven't listened to the episode.
Okay.
No, absolutely not.
Fair
I
enough.
had no doubt in my mind.
Appreciate that. Why would we expect more of the viewers at home? Daniel is joining us as well. Daniel, how are you?
I'm great. Just wondering where Ronnie went. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for your consistency and caring.
I'm making it. I had my day out, right?
Yeah, you did, yeah,
Or
that's true.
days.
And we are joined by Ben Finke, who is the principal consulting / managing partner.
Good
Okay.
one. Good one.
Now, what's a tough one? Because
He reads real good.
he's the principal consulting managing partner, but you know the slash is very.
Don't be afraid to show
critical
off
there.
your skill in here in front of Mom and Pa.
I can read of OnDefend. Ben, was that the right title?
Yeah, we'll go with that. I mean, one of the co-founders. So I do a lot of principal consulting. Definitely consulting. I'm not sure about the principal part. But
Well,
that's
I
close
think
enough.
I think that came from your LinkedIn. So
He was a principal.
That's
and
on
then
you.
went
Probably
into
go check that.
consulting.
yeah, you can update that on your own time. And and you were actually a guest on our webinar last week, right? What did you guys talk about?
Yeah,
Battle
that was a ton of
tested
fun. We talked about
security?
testing your security. Yeah.
Well, that's good because you're a guy that does that, and we will find out more about that in our first segment where we get to know you a little bit better in rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Ben. So in this segment, what we're going to do is rapidly fling questions at you to answer. We'll rotate through each of us, and as we do it, you'll see a timer appear on your screen. You'll have approximately 1 minute to answer each question, and the first question is coming at you from Peter. Oh, and I didn't mention, if you take longer than a minute, Peter will buzz you like that, which
You take
normally,
1 week off, Don.
Yeah, I'm out of my groove. I guess I get buzzed this time.
Yeah.
It's funny, last week as I was playing the rapid fire intro segment, I was like, oh crap, Don's not here. What are the rules of this segment again? I guess I got to say this. All right, well, I'll jump in with the first question, Ben, for you. So we're asking everybody this month, and I think you're the last one this month. So what was your IT journey like? How did you decide that that's what you wanted to get into, and how did you make that happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually started, had no intention of doing anything in IT. I was going to be a pilot for the Air Force. I even got accepted into ROTC. They were paying for my school, and I got to go to this place in Oklahoma where they do a lot of the flight simulator training. And I got to experience what's called an elevator takeoff, where you literally go straight up as soon as the airplane leaves the ground. And it was then and there that I decided that gravity and I have a firm affinity for each other. And there's no reason to be in the sky all the time. So I actually I gotten a scholarship for meteorology of all things. I thought that was cool. It's like in science, uses computers. I like computers. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to be a weatherman either. And so one of my friends was like, you should try computer science. I was like, yes, let's do that. This was in the early 2000s. There were no computer science security classes. I took some encryption classes, but there was nothing about computers like security, like it's the way that I experience it today. But I was able to do that like at the beginning of what the Air Force was doing for its security and fell in love with it right there.
Well, I'll tell you, weatherman is actually my backup career because nobody cares if you're consistently wrong.
No,
It's an
it should have
amazing
been
career
the
field.
primary, honestly.
Yeah, if I
Similar
could
to
do it all over again.
cybersecurity.
Yeah. I'd go back in time. Doc Brown shows up right now.
Well, so we mentioned that you were the co-founder of OnDefend. So let's talk a little bit about OnDefend. I actually had a chance to meet you several months ago and see what you guys did. It's really cool stuff. So can you give everybody a quick summary of what is OnDefend?
Sure. Yeah. So we do a lot of consulting in the space of computer security. So both networks, systems, cloud. We do a lot of tactical testing. That's the part of the company that I run. And we do a lot of compliance consulting too. So we do a lot of like pen testing, red team gigs. Anytime you want to simulate something bad happening in your organization, that's what we do, and then help you figure out ways to fix it later.
That's really cool, man. I love that kind of stuff. All those simulations, because it's really hard. Well, you don't want people doing it for real, right? But to have a platform that can give you that idea of what it's going to look like, really cool. Speaking of platforms that are really cool, you also have this blind spot business going on here. Tell us a little bit about that. It's really neat for those blue teamers out there, right?
Yeah. So that's been a lot of fun. We've been developing that in-house. We started doing these engagements that we had different names for, but now it's pretty widely known as Purple Team, where you sit down with the defenders and try to help them figure out, this is what attackers do. Let's figure out how to detect that better. And there was just so much stuff that took our team a lot of time on an engagement. And we're like, a big ethos of us is we build a lot of tools that make our consultants better. And that was totally in our realm of things we could do. We had three real problems I'll go with. The first one was automating the activity. We needed to be able to kick it off and run it consistently in production safely. The second one was payload delivery. It turns out that sometimes getting these files onto people's computers, like across the network, is kind of annoying. So we built a solution for that in the tool. And then being able to explain really complex stuff to stakeholders who are not technical, but who make the money decisions is really critical. And that's where we focus Blind Spot on.
And then you have another product called Confirm for Me. So what is that confirming and for whom?
Yeah, so that's all about email security. We do a lot of advanced phishing simulations for customers, kind of beyond the standard, like out of the box automated phishing, like, ooh, you clicked on the link and this is bad. We go for, can we steal your credentials, or can we get a code of ours to run on your computer? And we would just bypass a lot of these controls. And so customers would come to us and say, like, okay, so what do? We train, we try to do security awareness training, and we have filters and it doesn't work. And this is our attempt to give some tooling to the person who's actually got to make the decision. Do I interact with this email or not? Is it safe? They don't know, because things like Outlook lie to us all the time. So it's our attempt to help you figure that out, even if you're not technical.
So that's nice that idiots like me are creating job security for people like you. So we're happy to help there. Last question I wanted to ask you. So I know that ACI Learning, which is associated here with IT Pro TV, we recently partnered with OnDefend's. So can you tell us a little bit about that partnership and what it means for both sides?
Yeah, absolutely. We're really excited for the partnership. I think it's because we both have the same goal of being able to, teach these folks who are our customers the skills they want. We come at it from different directions, but with the same goal. And that's what we find with the blind spot tool with Confirm for Me. It's all about like being able to make the content accessible and ready when they need it, when they want it. And that's exactly what IT Pro TV and ACI Learning do. And so really excited to see how both having access to Confirm for Me and Blind Spot can help your customers, and how having IT Pro TV content can be helpful for people we work with.
Don, I know you're not on the hot seat, but any other thoughts about the partnership there?
As well, here on the podcast, we just have fun. We talk about the news, but in our day jobs, we do a lot of training. We teach people how to do stuff and how to even do security tests and identify vulnerabilities in your network and so on.
Is that what you've been doing this whole time?
Sometimes.
Goodness gracious.
But we always get people who say, well, can you come and help us actually do it? And well, we're busy. So we can't.
But we know a guy.
And so we know a guy.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And it's important to have somebody you can trust to do that. If you think about what a pen tester does, what a red teamer does, really what any consultant does when they come and work on your network, you have to have somebody you can trust. So that's really how it works out for us. It gives us that extra person that we can go to.
Be honest, nobody trusts us. You had to find somebody.
Somebody with a better reputation than us.
I should clarify, too. I say we know a guy. Even though you have 3 titles of the company, there is more than just you there.
Oh, yeah, way more than me.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Just making
Like
sure.
2 other people.
Easy. Guy. And we have an office cat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
an office cat. That would be helpful. Yeah. I'm actually really proud of the fact the team is much smarter than I am. So if I show up at your door, you probably have problems. Much prefer to have my other team there than me.
I wonder if an office cat would work for like pen testing. If you had like some kind of NFC like chip that was on its collar, but it would be able to get into the.
Listen, man, those cats can get into anything.
And you tell me somebody's not going to pick the
anything.
cat up and get close enough to their badge with the badge cloner wrapped around their neck.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. You can
Like,
have
oh,
that.
look, this cat has a USB drive on its collar. Let's plug it in.
Plug it in. It's
Oh,
probably
maybe
its
it has its
identity.
where it's supposed to live. It
Yeah,
can
it's
find its
shot
mommy and daddy.
record. Yeah.
Cute cat pictures.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right.
All right. Well,
Interpreter
let's move
session
on
1.
and talk about someone that I hope is not an OnDefend client in this week's Science and Tech News.
Stay tuned for Science and Technology. And now, back to the anchor desk.
All right, so we're looking at an article coming to us from bleepingcomputer.com, and the headline is T-Mobile confirms servers were hacked It investigates data breach. And Ben, you're saying that you're familiar with the fact that this is not T-Mobile's first hack, maybe even this week.
Yeah. In doing some research in preparation for our chat today, I was looking back and realizing that this is at least their fifth breach, like significant breach in the last 3 years, maybe their sixth.
Wow. Well, what do we know about this one, or Don or Ben or Daniel, anybody that kind of has an idea of what's been taken or how it was taken? Do we know that stuff yet?
Well, let me set the stage for it, and then I'll let you guys, who probably have more information than me, run on it, because this is news that broke like a lot of breaches are lately, which was not that T-Mobile just came out of the blue and said, hey, everybody, we're notifying you of a breach. Instead, it was somebody found a hacker online offering to sell data from T-Mobile. And so that indicated that if it was true, the hacker must have gotten the information from somewhere, and maybe T-Mobile had a breach. And sure enough, it took I believe it was a solid day, maybe even 2 days before T-Mobile finally came out and said, yes, there was a breach. Millions of records were stolen. So this is a trend we're seeing a lot more. And Daniel, you and I were talking about it earlier today about how what's the average window of time before somebody detects that they've been...
I think around 200 some odd days, like 9 months.
Since the inception of the attack? Or...
Yeah,
Wow.
since the breach occurred before you detect, hey, what's this?
That's the crazy thing, because you come home and your house is robbed and you see, oh, my stuff's gone. But
Yeah.
in this case, your stuff's there, but someone else has got your stuff too.
So it's like
or
you're
they set up like listening devices and cameras, and you're like,
exactly.
what is that in the ceiling there, Billy? That's a camera.
It's like your intrusion detection system is eBay, or
Yeah.
whatever. When you see your TV at the pawn shop,
Yeah.
Maybe somebody broke in. So that's kind of how this has shaken out. And then, like, Ben, have you heard any actual details on how this attack kind of played out?
Yeah, T-Mobile hasn't shared anything directly. We've got a couple of screenshots of some other things that were from like the hacker side. So I guess if we trust this person, screenshots of them connecting to database systems directly inside T-Mobile's network,
Oh, wow.
which is typically bad.
Would this be like Don's eBay analogy, except all the pictures are from inside your house? like, why is my stuff being sold, and how did they get these pictures?
That's right. Hey, that's my couch.
Yeah,
Where did that come
that's
from?
me.
Yeah. And sadly, the majority of you guys nailed it. The majority of the disclosures we find out about data breaches is because somebody discovers the data being for sale. And we're like, oh, this looks like Target's data or whoever it is, right? And then we find that out later. And you're right, that 9 months is the average of how long it takes. And it takes the attackers, hours to days at the most to get in, get the data, and get out. And then months later, we figured this thing out.
Well, going back to that
problem.
question, when you talk about how long it takes for people to notice that, do companies regularly just go on the dark web and say, hey, I'm going to just check for my stuff? And if not, why not? Because
Well, if you forget your password, you can go to the dark web.
it's
right?
there. Someone
Good
else
point.
there, you
There
could
it
buy
is.
it.
Jeez.
Yeah. Do you have to buy all the records? Can you just buy your own password?
There are services that talk about doing this, right? Monitoring the dark web for you. But Don, I think you were the one that said to the pawn shop, it is like that. Like, you're not actually going to look around to see if anybody broke into your house. You're just going to go to all the pawn shops around your house and look for your stuff there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's just like the odds of you actually discovering it that way are super, super low. And if they take it to a pawn shop, in Ocala, it's not helping anybody or wherever
for
they
me.
go. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And meanwhile,
And
all
so-
the things you'd seen on the dark web during that time, you'd probably have quit the job.
I do like your idea about like making iTunes for passwords on the dark web. Like, I can just give you your password for 99
Yeah, that'd be
cents.
great. Thank you.
Man,
That's right. We got a bunch of them. Yeah.
But like a song, they'll sell it to everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Now, I am curious though, like if we trust the screenshots, if this attacker is accessing databases internal, that to me makes this sound like another instance of compromised VPN credentials. Would that be a safe guess, Ben, or like where would you kind of knowing that it's all guesswork, like where would you kind of put it as the way they got in?
Yeah. So I think initially it was probably a phishing attack that they got credentials. And I think it was some sort of single factor, like only password required on the outside to get remote access in. And then they probably established multiple footholds there is my total guess. The other thing is they probably just wrapped it all up in an AWS S3 bucket that was open to the world. And they just happened to be the ones to stumble across all this really valuable data. You never know when things like that would happen. But if we believe the attacker, then that's almost certainly what it was. Phishing attack followed by VPN with single factor creds.
I know. I tell people all the time, like, how do you hack Facebook? How would you get into Twitter? I'm like, well, you send somebody an email, right? And you're going to tell them to install this and just next your way through it. You'll be fine.
Be fine.
And there you go. And now you're in.
I'm guessing inside job.
It could be.
I mean,
Could be.
could be too.
Password spraying is also pretty popular at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Password.
Yeah,
what
right
now?
now you would pick autumn or winter 21.
2020? Yeah.
And that would get you a lot of places.
Exclamation point. That's how I keep mine secure.
Yeah. Throw that exclamation point.
They
on the end.
never
Right.
guess that.
What was the term you used there, Daniel?
Just whatever season it is.
No,
I
password
see.
spraying.
Oh,
right?
password spraying.
Spraying,
Yeah.
okay.
That's where there are common passwords that people use, and you just try them against everybody.
Gotcha.
Right. So it's only like 5
Yep.
attempts. It doesn't give you a lockout policy, but it
Right.
allows you to find those low hanging fruit, find your way in. You're good to go.
That's my password. Low hanging fruit.
People
Exclamation
reuse
point.
passwords like crazy. Have you guys seen? I don't know if we covered it here on the show or not, but Have I Been Pwned? You can punch in your email address or whatever, and it'll show if that was part of a breach. They've got a new service that you kind of have to trust a little bit, where you can type in your password,
Yeah.
and it'll show if that password had turned up in a breach. Well, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily you. Like, other people could have used the same password. So if you punch in your password there and find that it was used 120,000 times,
You better change that password.
Not the best password then.
Because I tell people all the time, because I do the training for security. People, you do something like a password cracking demonstration, and you always get interaction with people. And some of them aren't as cool as others, and they're like, "Oh, you used a really easy password." I'm like, I can show you 100-character password that contains every character type known to man, but it's in RockU, right?
Yeah.
And if it's in RockU, it doesn't matter how long,
that's right.
strong character, it doesn't care. It's there. Therefore, it will get hit, and you will get in. So, don't tell me I didn't use the bad password.
Yeah.
Somebody else did.
Yeah, it's not your fault. It's never your
No,
fault.
It's never
That's
my
what I've
fault.
learned. All right, Ben. So before we let you go, if people want to find out more about OnDefend, what's the best place for them to go?
Yeah. You can hit us up on ondefend.com on the web. Email us contact@ondefend.com. And you'll find a lot of our content out there. We're joining folks like you for webinars and things. And we also are, I think Twitter's at OnDefend as well. So we'd love to hear from you.
Cool. Any events coming up or anything? I know we kind of just passed the whole Black Hat, DEF CON time, but anything coming up?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of our team that's going to talk at Wild West Hacking Fest coming up. We have the Texas Cyber Conference coming up in a couple of months. We've got a few team members speaking at that. We're going to be hosting some Purple Team exercises that we'll be talking about. And we've got a few more webinars coming out about sort of our battle-tested series that we'll be inviting folks to as well.
Great. Is that all on the website there?
All on the website. Yep.
Perfect.
Is
All
Wild
right.
West Hacking Fest in person this year?
It is.
Are you going?
It is hybrid.
I
Yep.
didn't. We didn't know at the time whether or not it was going to be that, so I didn't submit for any of the stuff.
Oh, are you going as an attendee?
No.
Yeah, according to
Yeah.
Sturgis, there's no COVID in South Dakota.
According to the statistics, there's very little
Well,
COVID in South
there's very
Dakota.
little people.
There's also very little people.
Yeah.
After Wild West Hacking Fest, that might change.
Yeah, can bison get COVID? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah,
They-
bison and mountain sheep.
They do
right?
say your cat or dog could, so
Yeah, so why not your? Yeah,
why not your pet bison?
another reason to not let the cat with the USB.
Man, I'll tell you
key
what.
into the office.
The bison, litter box, is not fun. Just throwing that out there.
Don't know why you know that, but
Fact.
Fact.
Yeah,
Today I learned.
How did you train a bison to use a litter box?
better
Wasn't easy, my friend.
Ben, I'm going to let you go before this goes off the rails, but we appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun.
All right, stay tuned, everybody. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and we're talking about the news from this week coming up on Technado with Don Pizzette.
IT pros who want to learn on the go? The IT Pro TV Android app is for you. Now it's better than ever with the dashboard view built in. Easily resume viewing, see new courses as they're added, and track your hours viewed. Start up your next episode with the touch of a button to binge watch on the go. Track your progress at a glance, and download episodes as an annual member for offline viewing. Access all IT Pro TV courses with a simple button. Choose landscape mode for larger viewing. Choose your course by category, certification, or job role. watch anywhere, and pick up later on your favorite devices. So head to the App Store and download the IT Pro TV app.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette. Thank you so much to Ben for joining us and telling us all about OnDefend, and again, making me scared to use all things computers.
Or T-Mobile.
Yeah, or T-Mobile. I feel like I was always scared to use T-Mobile, and that's why I had.
Should everybody just become Luddites and
Yeah.
call it a day?
Chisel the tablet,
Yep.
hand that to somebody.
That's right.
Makes sense.
Meg and Maddie.
All right, well, we've got a lot of news to get to this week. There were some other people that got in some trouble. Some people that
A lot of people. This was a bad week for
Yeah.
people keeping data private.
we got one where the data breach was avoided, but we're going to go ahead and start with our first article from arstechnica.com. Updated app from Apple brings iCloud passwords to Windows. It's certainly not on par with 1Password, but it's a welcome addition anyway. So is this something that is new in Windows 11 or just new across the board?
Kind of Windows across the board, yeah. So if you are a die-hard Mac user, like Peter over here, where you have a MacBook laptop, a iPhone, or an iPad, if you do everything in the Apple ecosystem, then you likely use Apple's Keychain service that stores all of your passwords in an encrypted database and synchronizes them between the devices and is honestly a pretty impressive piece of software. So it actually does work really well, except for that whole part of just being in the Apple ecosystem, which not everybody is. And there are a plethora of password managing companies that are out there, like 1Password or LastPass, Bitwarden. And what they do is they provide a secure place to store your password, but they're multi-platform. Well, Apple is recognizing that Windows machines do exist and that some people do use them, especially if they, want to play games or use most commercial software. So that's where they need to be able to extend their services out. But they've been hit or miss on supporting Windows over the years. So like the version of iTunes that runs on Windows is kind of a nightmare. The Safari version that ran on Windows was a total debacle, and they've ended support for it.
Why did that exist?
Yeah. They've had some misses over the years. But now they're extending out their keychain so that you'll actually be able to synchronize your iCloud passwords down to your Windows machine, which helps for people who do have to use more than one system like that.
So unlike a LastPass, for example, where while there is a free version, there's a paid version as well. I mean, they're not charging people for keychain. So this is maybe designed for people that they know have an iPhone, but maybe have a PC and want to kind of share that way.
Keychain is a part of the Mac operating system, right? So
Right.
they charged you for it.
Well, no, you're right. But the Windows users aren't being charged for this
I don't know.
necessarily.
Right. Yeah. You could sign up for a free iCloud account and then use their password manager on your Windows machine. There's not really a reason to do that.
Yeah.
Like if you don't actually use Macs, you do not want to get involved in the Mac ecosystem. So it's really for people that are already in
Amen,
that.
brother.
You will never get out.
It's pretty
once they
cut and
get
dry.
you.
Yeah, I know. I looked at the start and I was like, Windows, Apple. I don't use either of that crap.
Or if you're gonna dip your toes in it, you might as well get an iPhone or get a MacBook. Like don't start with their crappy password manager. Like, and I
Not
say
really
it's-
putting their best foot forward on that one.
I say
huh,
it's
Don?
crappy. It is crappy on Windows. It's not crappy on the other platforms.
there you
So
go.
that's my degrees of crapitude that we have to measure on that. But there's certainly better options on Windows. There's actually really good options on Mac also. We use LastPass pretty heavily here. Bitwarden is an open source one that's really good. So find a solution that works for you. But this is basically their way, though, of saying, hey, there's some users that maybe they want to play a video game that just doesn't run well or isn't supported on a Mac, so they have a different machine that runs Windows. They want to be able to have that. Or there's plenty of Windows users that have an iPhone and don't have an actual Mac, so this helps to bridge that gap.
All right, riddle me this. If I have a Mac and I need to do something in Windows and I have like a virtual machine or something, would Keychain have worked before?
Not really, no.
So yeah,
No.
this is maybe good for that
Yeah.
use case too.
So in your virtual machine, you would install, oddly enough, iTunes, because why not? It's actually tied to the iCloud piece, but
Yeah.
usually we get that as a part of iTunes.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're offering iCloud as a separate download just yet. But that'll give you the functionality to connect your iCloud drive, synchronize your iCloud contacts, and now synchronize your iCloud passwords.
All right, very
Well,
cool.
that's really nice. I don't want to elaborate further on this scale of crapitude. Are we talking like, a shart at the bottom and at the top it's like explosive diarrhea?
Yes.
Like where are we working
Yeah,
with?
I
Is
believe
there a
it's
gradient
referred to
scale
as the
or-
chocolate fountain.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. Good to know.
If you've ever been to Golden Corral.
I was going to say this segment brought to you by Golden Corral. Home with the $9.99 fish fry and chocolate fountain. All right, let's move on to our next article.
Please.
I keep having to change the subject, and it keeps coming back. All right, this one is from betanews.com. Ubuntu Linux gets certified for secure and regulated workloads. So who certified this? Ubuntu?
So who indeed? That would be the U.S. government. So we have a couple of government regulations that are designed to help ensure that computer systems and hardware are up to a certain level of security standard. Most of this actually comes from NIST, which I'm probably going to screw up the acronym, the National Institute of Standards and
Technology.
Thank you, Daniel.
You're welcome.
There we go. So NIST puts out these, and one of them is the FIPS 140-2 standard, which defines the minimum requirements for a system to be considered secure for use in a production environment. Well, Ubuntu 20.04, their LTS, their current LTS version, which has been out for almost 2 years now, or about a year and a half, has been FIPS 140-2 Level 1 certified. So that means that if you work in a workplace that requires your machines to be certified like that, so for example, maybe you work at a financial institution, and so you've got you're trying to be prepared for I got to remember all the numbers, an SSAE 18 or a SOC 1, SOC 2 report. If you have to meet those standards, you might have stayed away from Ubuntu before because it wasn't FIPS 140-2 Level 1 certified. It's a mouthful. This is a hard
There's
segment.
probably on an exam somewhere
Yeah,
making
somewhere.
you just want to hate your life.
But it made people choose to use Red Hat because they were already certified, or some of the other security-focused distributions. Ubuntu, though, has really been making some headway in the enterprise space. They are the most popular server and desktop distribution of Linux now, and now that they've got this certification, there's all the more reason for them to continue penetrating the enterprise market.
You know, Don, you've been a Red Hat fanboy for quite some time. Love the Red Hat. I've seen you making steps toward going, oh, okay, maybe Ubuntu is not that bad. Is this another one of those steps for you?
It does get closer. So usually all of my test environments now are pretty much Ubuntu.
Yeah.
If I run Linux on, I have my laptop set to dual boot, so I boot into Ubuntu. I used to always do Fedora. So I have kind of moved over to it for a lot of that. But if I'm doing some kind of production deployment where I'm being paid to maintain it, my preference is still Red Hat.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not a complete convert.
All right. Well, I'm just trying to get the feel of the water here. See where you're at. No, what does this mean for Canonical though? Is this is this going to mean huge government contracts for them, or?
That's a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now remember, they give away their operating system, right? So their
That's
operating
true.
system is free. It's
But that's support.
That's what you pay for.
Yeah.
So the government agencies, they can start using it right now without having to go through all of the appropriations forms and all the stuff that a normal company would have to go through. Like with Red Hat, they have to go through that. Well, now they're a part of IBM, so they're involved in the government anyway. But now Canonical will be able to get that foothold in some of those secure environments, and there's some big money to be had there because they definitely will buy support.
Oh, maybe later, after they've set it up wrong.
Yeah.
And people are getting
After the
hacked.
breach.
You know how the government works, right? It's their modus operandi. It's how we know them.
That is a part of it.
Yeah.
All right, so I didn't understand any of that because I don't use Ubuntu, but I was going to just mention, Don, I look at the YouTube comments. You get a lot of crap for the way you say Debian.
You
Okay.
mentioned this last week, by the way.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but you did a video recently about comparing Linux Mint and Ubuntu, and someone made fun of you about how you say Ubuntu too. They said Ubuntu, Debian. It's not hard to pronounce. Why do you pronounce it different than any other person in the Linux community? But you had someone else
come to your rescue.
come to your rescue and say that you pronounce it like the word. I'm not sure what language they said
Yeah,
it was.
it's an African
it's
word.
South
Yeah.
African, isn't
South
it?
African
Yeah.
word. You pronounce it properly.
Yeah, I
as
looked
that
it up.
I
word.
guess it's Afrikaans is the official language of
I
South
looked
Africa.
up because that's what I do.
'Cause
And
that's what I do.
Debian is called Debian because it's named after Deborah and Ian. So
Now, do they
but,
say
but
that?
they were saying that
Right.
that you say it's not named after Deb and Bean. It's Deb and Ian, which I'm like, that's the same thing. You're still saying
Basically.
Deb Ian. It's,
Yeah.
And once it became
people are never happy.
I don't know if you've met Linux users before, but they're a tightly wound bunch, and I'm included in that.
I'll find that
So,
comment for you.
I've
later,
learned
Yeah.
to let it go, Louis.
and I'll send it
Just
over
let
to
it
you.
go.
Well, I know my favorite distro is Debian Linux. Yeah, that Linux is the best OS I got.
And Ubuntu.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's a strange world. People fixate on the oddest things. So
yeah, people just want to get mad. So
what I'd like to do is be inconsistent with the way I say it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll say Ubuntu or Ubuntu, and that way, and Debian and Debian.
I am glad that they're frustrated over pronunciation, because that's something you can change versus like being frustrated over something you can't change. Like,
Absolutely.
Daniel, you have a stupid face.
I don't read those comments.
Your mom
too.
likes it though, so I'm leaving it.
We get those
Sick
comments
burn.
too. They just
You get comments about my mom?
all kinds. Yeah.
No.
I write comments about your
Yeah,
mom
he's
half
in
the
there.
time. That's-
Don's mom is so dumb.
when she sits around the house. She really sits
She's a
around.
lovely woman, though, honestly, if I'm being honest.
So for the next 2 months, we're going to get nothing but your mom jokes. in
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
so-
So comments.
So if you want to win a Technado t-shirt,
Yeah.
leave the best your mom
Best
joke.
If
mom
we
joke.
read your joke about Don's mom on the air, I will send you a Technado shirt. So head over to technado.com
Yeah.
and send it in there.
Actually, we only take those on technade.do.
Yeah.
Technado, yeah.
We should take a picture of your mom holding the shirt, right, and signing it or whatever. That would be awesome.
All right. I'm getting.
I think our 5 minutes are up on that
It's
one.
a
getting
family
word in
show.
my ear that there's a limited amount of disk space on the recording. So let's move
Listen to
on.
me. Article.
Yeah. To the next one from therecord.media. It says Cloudflare says it mitigated a record-breaking 17.2 million RPS DDoS attack. And honestly, who's fact-checking Cloudflare? Right? They can say that every week.
Oh, it was an accidental DDoS that they did themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
But man,
stopped
we
it.
stopped it cold.
So what's the story here, Don? Do we know?
Well, so normally when they come out and they say, like, we stopped a record-breaking DDoS, they're normally talking about the sheer amount of bandwidth that was consumed. Like, we stopped a 6 terabit per second DDoS, which is like a really impressive amount of bandwidth. Cloudflare has more bandwidth than just about any company in the entire planet, so it's amazing when they do stuff like that. This one's a little bit different because they came out and said, hey, we stopped 17.2 million RPS. Now, RPS is request per second. So imagine, like, when you browse to a website, you're making a single request against that website. And when you click a link, you make another one. Well, we usually generate a few more requests because of all the ads that are embedded in pages and other things, the CSS, the style sheet, we got to pull that. And those are additional requests. But 17.2 million HTTP requests per second is a really impressive number. That would take thousands upon thousands of zombie machines all generating these, targeting a single site. And it is 3 times larger than the previously recorded maximum DDoS size by Cloudflare. So really kind of showing what they're capable of and how attackers have some pretty impressive tools these days.
Man, they're not playing around with all those requests, right? Now, it could have been one of those, was it the Reddit hug of death, right? They call it a hug nowadays,
yeah,
where everybody
yeah.
gets like, hey, we should go check out that site. And they all do it at the same time. And I've seen that take down some stuff. I know that Google went down with that before, as well as others. But
Sometimes like a personal blog will make it on the front page of Hacker News.
yeah,
And then, it'll go down. Slashdot used to do that before they, started losing their popularity. But in this case, even these numbers are way beyond what this is like Black Friday shopping sale
this is
type
crazy
number.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, they said it was all through a botnet that was doing this. They kind of like figured it was coming from a botnet on this.
It was like a modified Mirai botnet. Mirai has been around quite some time.
Very famous botnet.
Mirai.
It's Helen Mirai.
It's the,
Great actress.
Yeah, it's the Filipino word meaning, I don't know. But yeah. I don't know how
Die,
to pronounce it
scum.
right.
But yeah, just a really impressive stuff. So, if you ever doubt that Cloudflare knows what they're doing, there's some proof that they do.
Good for them. I was just looking up the other day because I was, we were doing CEH and it's like 25, almost 26% of all internet traffic is botnet activity.
I can believe
Wow.
that.
That's fun to know, huh?
Yeah. And the rest of it is TikTok.
Yeah. So actually like 20 something percent was like good bots. So spiders, crawlers from Google and whatnot. And then other than that, the rest of that was actual human traffic. That was a bad way of putting that. It was people using the internet.
The rest of it's human traffic.
Yeah.
So this is still number 2 then on the list of biggest recorded, or is this broke the record?
Oh, this broke the
This
record.
broke the
Okay.
record.
3
yeah.
times the size of number 2.
I'm confused. Yeah, because this is using a different scale. Because the other one says, well, this is the biggest bandwidth DDoS attack ever recorded comes at 2.3 terabytes per second, recorded by Amazon Web Services
Yep.
in February 2020.
But that's bandwidth, not
That's
request per
bandwidth,
second. So
okay.
you have two
Different.
different units
Yep.
of measure. Yep.
All right.
Get it right, Peter. Jeez.
Well, I'm just asking what the people at home are asking because I don't know. All right, let's head back over to Bleepy Computer for our next article. Razer bug lets you become a Windows 10 admin by plugging in a mouse. Now, is this mouse made by like Hack5 or something? Like this seems more like a hacking tool than a mouse. That's crazy.
This is actually an exploit that has been kind of known about for a while. We rely on developers to take certain security steps to protect their software, and so we put a lot of trust, especially when it comes to drivers. Drivers run with system permissions, and so if you can compromise a driver for hardware, you now have full control over a system. And that's basically what happened with Razer. If you bought a Razer gaming mouse, really any of the Razer mice that used the software package, the Razer Synapse software, when you plug the mouse into a computer, Windows will actually reach out and download the control software for that mouse automatically, which is kind of nice. You don't have to provide a driver. It's going to load the software, and now you can customize your DPS or whatever it is you want to adjust for your mouse. DPS isn't the right term. What are the gamer mice? It is DPS. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't game.
Well, what do you know?
I know.
So when it downloads that software, though, it's running under system privileges to do the install, which is normally fine. But this installer actually prompts you to pick which directory you want to install in. And so a window comes up that lets you change the directory. And that window is running with system privileges. If you use the browse button to browse to a directory, you can trigger a PowerShell prompt to launch in that directory. And now your PowerShell prompt is running with system privileges. You are now a full administrator on that computer. And so anybody can do it. All they need is a regular login or even a guest account in Windows. If they can just get logged in. So they do need physical access, plug in the mouse, and when the driver loads, it takes 2 seconds, and pow, you're an admin.
Well, that's horrible, but awesome all at the same time. I love bugs like this, honestly, because it's seemingly, I'm just plugging in a mouse, but it goes back to the old adage of how do these things happen? How do people, because that's what I get all the time, right? How is it possible that someone would gain privilege into these systems? Well, you probably accidentally misconfigured something. You put it in the wrong place. You accidentally set the wrong permissions. You forgot to do X, Y, or Z security thing. And it just takes one, and somebody running around out there going, did that just run a system? Oh, and it asked me where, and then you put 2 and 2 together, and you're in the system.
Now, a lot of people are blaming Razer because they did get some bad press over this. The researcher who found it reported it to Razer, and they ignored him. They never responded. He reached out multiple times, and they didn't answer. And so then he posted on Twitter and just sent it. He disclosed it. They immediately got with him, and they worked on a fix. I believe the fix is already out. The updated driver doesn't do it anymore. I haven't tested that, but they said a fix was in the works. And they are paying him a bug bounty, which is nice, but they're getting some bad press. But personally, I think the fault here really lies with Microsoft.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, if they say, "Oh, your mouse makes this thing break," well, that's that thing's fault. Or it sounds like a feature.
So Razer wrote the driver.
Right.
They wrote the installer, but because Windows automatically downloads it, that means they had to submit it to the Windows Hardware Labs, or the Windows Hardware Quality Labs, WHQL, which has a different name now.
Does it?
Anyhow, but it's the Windows compatibility testing that they do. So that means employees at Microsoft reviewed that driver, tested it out, digitally signed it to say, yes, it gets our stamp of approval, and then allowed it to be automatically deployed on the systems, when it should have been a simple check like, hey, when we install the driver, don't allow somebody to pick a different directory. That shouldn't even be an option. It should be an unattended install, and that way it installs securely, and you can't take over the session.
So to clarify, someone else a malicious company couldn't go out there and say, well, I'm going to create a driver then that does this and have the same effect because it's not going to be signed by Microsoft.
So they could create a driver with this exact flaw, submit it to the labs, which I believe it costs, I think it's $40,000 just to submit.
Oh, dang.
And then if you're approved, there's an additional charge. So it ends up being around like $60,000 to get a driver approved. That's why vendors like NVIDIA don't get every version of their driver approved. It's like every 8th or 10th version because they don't want to pay that price, right? So I could write a driver that's a perfectly on the up and up driver that has a navigation prompt like this, knowing it could be exploited. Obviously, the hardware labs aren't going to find it. So as long as I'm willing to pay $40,000, which I bet Vladimir Putin is, then
Yeah,
we can
when you
get
think
it
of
submitted.
all the Bitcoin you will get.
Yeah, I mean, the only hesitation is converting it to rubles. And so then it gets deployed, and now you've got a hardware way in.
So now I just have to add a Razer mouse to my red teaming kit.
Exactly.
Is there a fix for this? Did they come out with a fix, like from either Microsoft or Razer or both?
So there is actually a different navigation prompt they can use that doesn't allow you to spawn a PowerShell. So do you ever get like really annoyed when you go to
Yes.
browse and sometimes it's got the box where you can type in an address, but other times it forces you to pick folders?
Yes.
That's why the forced folder selection eliminates that ability to pop up PowerShell.
Gotcha.
Or they can just take that away altogether and say, no, we install in this
We got a
location.
default place, yeah.
It's not like it's
Which
100
seems
gigs in size.
Like
It's
normal, right? Isn't that what most applications do? Like, this is where this goes.
drivers. Like,
Yeah,
when's the
right.
last time
Well, that's what I mean. This is a driver. It's not like I'm downloading, QuickBooks here,
Yep.
I
which probably
agree.
has its own issues. But
So I'm going to blame Microsoft on this one because they should have caught it, and Razer paid for
I was
that.
going to say, you pay 60 grand, you expect that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they're going to
So
do that quality control.
Razer made the mistake. They should have known better. But when you pay to have it checked, seems like it should have been checked.
yeah.
All right. Well, this next one is a big one. It comes to us from the sun.com. It's no like elegant way to read that. but,
The Sun, yeah.
The Sun delivered this from on
Yes, the
high.
Sun sent this
Yeah.
article to us. All right, hack attack. Massive Microsoft data breach exposes 38 million records, including social security numbers and vaccination data. So is this vindication for all the people that say Bill Gates is tracking your vaccine?
Well, I would say that 38 million is a pretty small number compared to the amount of vaccinated people in the world.
that's
So, there's that. However, this is a really big black eye for Microsoft because what happened was a security researcher was scanning systems that happened to be hosted in Azure, and they came across a system where a back-end database was exposed to the internet. And once they got into it, they found all sorts of private information. And they wondered, like, this one system is misconfigured. I wonder if anything else is. And this was all part of Microsoft's Power Apps service. So they knew this one was using Power Apps because of the naming convention that Microsoft uses and a few other things. So then they started scanning some other systems that were using Power Apps, and they found out not just this one was affected. In fact, most systems that used Power Apps were affected. They were actually being hosted in Azure. And it turns out that when you use the default templates in Power App, it would occasionally deploy infrastructure where the back end was actually exposed to the internet. And nobody knew that. Like even the people who were managing Power Apps from Microsoft, some of Microsoft's own databases were exposed this exact same way. So this breach doesn't just affect one company. Somewhere in here, they give a whole big list. It's just a laundry list of companies that you wouldn't want to hear. American Airlines, Ford, JB Hunt, Maryland Department of Health. All right, a little specific. But I mean, you've got New York City in here. You've got just tons of organizations, but even Microsoft. And these databases contained social security numbers, birth dates, vaccination information, not for all 38 million, right?
Yeah.
So they would have found a database of vaccination data or a database of social security
Yeah,
numbers.
and to clarify for the conspiracy theorists, this is not saying that Microsoft stores your vaccination data. This is saying that a Microsoft product was used to store this by one of these companies.
Correct.
We want to keep the conspiracy theorists happy, though, right? So this is
Oh,
not
you're supposed to tell me I'm wrong.
disprove.
Tell me I'm wrong.
This
Yeah.
is not disprove. Like they
It
could
doesn't
sort-
neither confirm nor deny.
Do I need to play the Alex Jones?
just not
thing?
in these databases.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Bill Gates showed up with 2 needles in his hand and said, "Who's getting vaxxed?"
Yeah, it was one vaccination record.
Yeah.
But hey, it's part of 38
So
million.
the researcher did work with Microsoft, who absolutely responded. They did go and correct the issue. So this is not happening with new deployments, and they contact everybody who had an existing deployment to repair that as well. So problem is gone. But if you take away one lesson from this, it's that anybody can make a mistake, and cloud providers aren't perfect, right? So just because Microsoft had a template to deploy this for me didn't mean that template was perfect. I should test it on my own.
So Don, I've learned one thing from being in security and all the stuff I've learned since I've started really
Insecure?
making that my focus is that you're going to pay taxes, you're going to die one day, and security is hard as hell, right? You're going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen because we're imperfect,
Yep.
and someone's got to find it.
But it's a heck of a lot more visible when it's a cloud provider providing that
that.
service to tons of companies around the world.
True.
Yeah.
I bet Amazon's like,
Until they have theirs
Man.
next month.
Yeah. At least it wasn't an open S3 bucket. For the love of God, would you
What
all
we learned
please?
today, it's 200 days from the time of the breach till they find out about it.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, we'll get
Yeah.
it soon.
So 200 days from now,
It's coming. Yeah.
if it's all to be crying a river.
Man, oh man. All right. Well, so that's out there.
Good summary.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck. Well, so the thing is, we don't know if others other than this researcher had found that and
certainly.
obviously
they
not
did.
reported it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
guaranteed.
do know. We do know. And they did.
Very, very possible, right? So, for every security researcher who does responsible disclosure and then releases the information like this, there could have been many, many black hat actors who had already discovered this. They're obviously not going to report it, and they're just going to harvest the data. Now, fortunately, assuming that logging is configured correctly, they can go back and see, did anybody do a data dump and what IPs, and they can figure that out. And if they do, they'll have to do breach notifications per GDPR and all of that. So the companies that I just listed, like Ford and American Airlines, they are now basically relying on Microsoft to find out whether a breach happened. They've got a timer that's ticking down now, which actually is probably up by this point.
Yeah, because
So-
it's not from the time that you figure it out. It's from the time that the
so
hack took place.
It actually is from the time you figured out. You've got like
Yeah.
72 hours. I think it's 72 hours to do
GDPR.
the to do the notification to anybody who might have been affected. But they could make the argument here of, well, this researcher found it. We don't know that anybody else actually found it. So then they've got to do that research. And in theory, if they don't know in 72 hours, they should notify anyway.
Yeah.
But some companies are willing to take that to the courts and say, well,
and
we
there's
were
some
waiting.
extension policies as well. Like if you knew and you didn't disclose, there are good reasons that if you can prove those good
Yeah, because you
reasons,
didn't think.
you can have extensions to that. It's weird.
That's like
GDPR.
basically if you're
There's a lot
doing
of
security
caveats.
and you check the back of the office and the back door is opened.
Yeah.
Well, you got to go first to
Is
see
there
did anybody
necessarily
get
a
in.
problem? Yeah.
And-
well,
and
you
if-
could cause more damage by disclosing than if you didn't.
Yeah.
So that's the whole idea is that
Step one, close the door.
you weren't 100% sure of what happened, so you have some leeway with GDPR, but it's not a lot, and you'd better be right.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
'Cause
You
it's-
better be right.
Because
Is it like
otherwise-
100% of your yearly revenue or
Yeah.
something?
So how much did you make last year? Okay, send that to us.
We'll take that.
I think it's 4% of your
Gross.
yearly revenue,
Yeah.
or $20 million, whichever one is greater. So, yep.
Pounds, 20 million pounds.
Man, that GDPR is going on.
Good point. I'm wrong. It is 20 million euros then, isn't it? Yeah.
Make money,
Which
money,
is
make
more,
money, money.
right?
Right? That's what they're doing.
I think it is right now. Yeah.
Math. Not my strong suit. All right. Well, want to let you know about a couple things coming up. First of all, a new webinar. If you head over to itpro.tv/webinars, we have one coming up called Azure Virtual Desktop versus Windows 365. Which is right for you? The use cases for Windows 11, AVD, and Windows 365. That's going to be with Adam Gordon and Mike Roderick, both of our Microsoft experts, battling it out in a AVD versus Windows 365 deathmatch.
That'll be awesome.
My money's on Azure.
Okay. Well, we'll see.
I don't know. I
won't we?
base that on nothing. That is Thursday, September 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So you can head over to itpro.tv/webinars and check that one out, as well as all the other webinars that we've had in the past and will have in the future. They'll all be at that address, so check that out. We've also got a free weekend coming up next month. Is going to be Microsoft month at IT Pro TV. So we will have a free weekend that's going to give you a lot of the Microsoft courses to try out, like Microsoft 365 Fundamentals for the MS900 exam, PowerShell Basics, PowerShell Scripting, AZ104, AZ500, managing Microsoft Teams. That's the new MS3 or MS700 exam. So a lot of great courses, and that is going to take place on September 18th and 19th. But definitely, we'll have more information to follow about that. And finally, head over to technado.com or technado if you're sending in your mama joke about Don's mother, and you can send
wait
us
to see
listener
these.
mail. We'd love to hear it. Well, Don wouldn't, but the rest of us would love to hear it. You can check out all the latest episodes, and you can also hit the orange button that says sponsored by IT Pro TV and get 30% off the lifetime of your personal subscription and membership to IT Pro TV. You can also request a team trial and get all the great features like the Pro Portal that are available to teams from IT Pro TV. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much to Ben again for joining us and teaching us about OnDefend. And yeah, it sounds like we probably head over to Have I Been Pwned and see, because this week it seems like everybody
probably
was.
happened.
Sounds likely.
Honestly, just save yourself the query. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Just assume that's occurred.
Someone knows that you've been vaccinated.
I saw somebody said passwords are like a toothbrush. Pick one that works for you. Don't share it with anybody and change it regularly.
You're supposed to change toothbrushes.
Yeah.
I'll be damned.
I know. He's got this one he's had since he was 6.
He's got his Kermit the Frog one. Yeah.
He's got 3 bristles in it.
Last time I went to the
Takes
dentist
forever.
in 1997, he gave me a toothbrush,
Yeah.
and that's the
Bam.
one. That's the one. Why do I need a new one? All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you guys next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.